Voices from the road, two truckers, one road, endless mysteries.
Hi, welcome. Thanks for stopping and taking the time to listen. We appreciate it here at Justice for Renee Freer. I am Cindy, and I'm one of the administrators here on the page. Ralph and Beth had asked if I would come on and speak a little bit about Renee's case and about what we are trying to accomplish going forward with Renee's law. I hope you'll find it informative. Renee was a wonderful little girl. We grew up on the same street together, small road, Williams Drive, which was a dead-end street in Monroe, Connecticut. I know many of you know Renee's story that follow us, but for those that don't, I'm just going to do a brief overview so that you get a sense of what we're trying to accomplish and of Renee and her story. Renee was 8.5 years old on June 22nd, 1977. We lived on a small street in Monroe, Connecticut. There were about 20 houses. It was a dead-end road and lots of kids on the street. We had kids ranging from the age of 4 through graduates of high school. We all knew each other. We knew each other's families. I'm not saying that we were all the best of friends, but we were the neighborhood crowd, and we watched out for one another. We played kickball in the street, run the bases, flashlight tag, built forts in the woods, hiked the trails to the horse farms. We all knew each other, and it was not a scary time. It was a great time to grow up. I'm sure many of you have very similar stories of your childhood, and especially if you lived in a small town. The night of June 22nd, 1977 was particularly quiet on our street. The Chalk Hill Middle School was graduating that evening, so there were many people in attendance there. There were Little League games going on. So after dinner, it was particularly quiet. It had been a half day of school. We had gotten home early. And it was the day before the last day of school for summer vacation. So there was certainly a lot of excitement going on. Around 8 p.m., we were in our yard, and friends, my cousins, and Felicia, who is Renee's mom, was driving very slowly down the street calling for Renee. She was concerned that Renee had not come home and she could not find her. It wasn't completely unusual during that time for a child to be out playing with other kids. Mom didn't seem hysterical. She just asked if we were with Renee or if we had seen Renee. She asked if we saw her to please send her home, that it was getting dark. And this was around 8 p.m., so it was dusk, certainly still light enough. We said, we'll help you look for her. And at the time, we thought that she was missing. We thought that she had maybe gotten hurt, had fallen, couldn't get up, maybe she was lost. So we started up in the woods, up behind our house, and we all started to look for her. And as word spread on the street, more and more neighbors were out and looking in the woods, knocking on doors, etc. Around 9 o'clock, as it got to be really dark, the police were called, not long after 9 o'clock, because it was obviously growing more and more of concern for Renee and where she was. Police got there probably around 9:15. The Monroe Fire Department was called. They were there. They were making teams to search the woods for Renee. We were told to stay close to home at that point, that it was concerning. They weren't sure what they were dealing with at that point. That was the first time that we had gotten nervous. Prior to that, we really just thought she was lost or she had gotten hurt. No one thought it could have been something as horrific as it was. I remember being so excited to see police and volunteers and firefighters coming onto Little Williams Drive. It almost lit up the whole street. We had no street lights back then, and it was very bright, and there were lots of cars on the road looking for Renee. And I just thought, this is great. We're going to finally find her now. We have all this help. And within the hour, Renee was found by two police officers back not far from her home, but back in the woods, which were dense woods back in the day. In fact, they still are dense woods. And she had been brutally murdered. She was bludgeoned to death with a rock to her head, to her skull. It was the evening that changed everything. Just a absolutely horrific moment for her family, for her friends, for our street, and for the entire Monroe community. The weeks following, there were so many police officers and detectives on our street questioning all of us, and working to solve this, working to find out who did this to Renee and find some resolution. Unfortunately, here we are approaching 49 years later, and no one has been held accountable for this crime and for the death of this precious child. About 2 years ago, we would hear about it throughout, and of course, unless you were directly associated with the case, I don't know that a lot of people knew about it on the other side of town. Social media wasn't a thing. It's very different now. And we had our little Monroe Courier and the Bridgeport Post at the time, and there was a few articles written, and after that, no one really heard much about it. We, of course, carried it with us our whole lives. What had happened about 2 years ago, Eric Hansen came across this case. Now, he grew up in Monroe as well and had never heard of the case. And he became interested and wrote a book about Renee Freer and her case called Dead End Road. He thankfully started attention on the case again. So all these years, the case has not been closed. We would inquire about it periodically, but what we were told by the police department was that periodically they would get leads in and they would follow up on every lead that they would get in. And so it was still an active case. It was not a closed case. So 2 years ago, I would say April of 2024, this brought attention to it. Eric started a Facebook group, and it became really a grassroots effort. Many people, friends of hers, family members of hers, and even people that didn't know Renee joined this Facebook group to try to get answers, to try to share their stories. As the time went on, another Facebook page was also created, and more people joined. So we have thousands of members on social media working toward getting resolution for Renee's case, finding out answers, finding out what happened. And unfortunately, Hi again, sorry. So what ended up happening was with this grassroots effort, we were quite lucky in that so many people came forward with stories. The police officers at the time gave a statement out stating that the person that they believed the person that committed this crime was a juvenile, was a lone male, and was a person who was known to Renee. They encouraged anyone that knew this person or his family members to come forward, or to encourage him to come forward after all of these years, so that there could be closure for this case. Unfortunately, that did not happen. There was a $50,000 reward out. Actually, it was Governor Rowland that upped it to $50,000, hoping that that would encourage people, anyone that knew something about this case that would lead to the arrest of the person that did it. There was a $50,000 reward for. That did not happen. In October of this year, we got the rug pulled out from underneath us. We felt as though finally, after all these years, almost 5 decades, that they were getting close. They were going to find out who did this to Renee, and this person would be held accountable. And in October of 2025, the police felt as though they had enough evidence to prosecute this person. And they went to the Connecticut State's Attorney's Office and they filed a arrest warrant for this individual. And the arrest warrant was denied. And given that the arrest warrant was denied, the case was ultimately closed. It was a sucker punch for so many people. The reason that we were given is because this person was under 14 at the time of the murder in 1977. And at the time, Connecticut state law would not transfer a juvenile to adult court to be charged with murder. So there was no possibility for this person to be charged with murder, even though there is evidence, according to the police. So then they looked into the charge of manslaughter in the first degree. And in this case, in the way that state law is written, and this is still today, manslaughter has a 5-year statute of limitations. So even though Renee lost her life to a homicide, a violent homicide, this person could not be charged with manslaughter in the first degree because the statute of limitations expired. So it would have had to be proven by 1982, 5 years after the crime. So that expired. So that wasn't on the table, wasn't an option. There was no legal mechanism to charge this individual. This individual could jump up and down in front of the police department on the Monroe Green and say, I did this 48 years ago. And there's no legal mechanism to arrest this person or to prosecute this person. He was a juvenile at the time, according to the police department. So he could have been charged with murder at the time if they had figured it out or proven it back then. He would have gone through the juvenile system. Generally what happens in a case of murder or anything is that it is, you're in the juvenile system till you're 18, sometimes 21, but you're not transferred to adult court as a 14-year-old in Connecticut. Some states, yes, but not the way Connecticut law is written. So now as a 61-year-old, this person, or 62-year-old, this person, all these years later, he still can't be charged as an adult because the crime happened when he was a juvenile. So they look at it as if he is a juvenile, even though he's 61 years old now. Cannot be charged as an adult. So could he be charged as a juvenile? Yes. However, there's no place to prosecute him because he has aged out of the juvenile system because he's too old. He can't be charged as an adult now because he was 13 at the time of the crime. He can't be charged with manslaughter now because the statute of limitations expired in 5 years. So there's no legal mechanism to charge this person, if indeed this is the person that they believe it to be. That's insane. There's a child that lost her life, and her case exposed a huge loophole in Connecticut law. So it was devastating. It was devastating to her family, devastating to her friends, devastating to the entire community. And we took that week just to regroup and cry and sigh and decided we need to take all of this negative energy and we need to put it to something positive. Renee's death can't be in vain. Her mom, her grandparents have passed away never knowing what happened to their child. So we've taken all of this negative energy and we're trying to do something positive with it. And that is how we came up with the proposal for Renee's Law. This is something that is not retroactive. It's not something that, okay, now we have this law in place, even if it is passed, we have this law in place, and now we can go back and charge this person. That is not allowed. So it has to be forward-looking. So the law is forward-looking. We have written a proposal, met with numerous senators, met with numerous representatives and lawmakers in Hartford throughout the past 6 months. And it has not come with resistance. It has been a really positive, it's been positive conversations and momentum is definitely growing. The legislators were in short session and we came upon this late that this happened. So we're in the process of building relationships and meeting with people and hopefully getting this on the docket for next session, which is a long session starting in January. What we are hoping to do is, in Renee's Law, is for each case to be looked at specifically by a judge. Just because it's under the age of 14, it shouldn't be blanket immunity. This child, because of a birth date. Because you're 1 day shy of being 14, you can walk free. Where's the fairness for this child that lost her entire life? I don't know if this happens often. We have found some cases. Of course, it's hard with juvenile cases, but we have found some cases that this would apply. This would have applied. So in the future, we are hoping that if we can pass this law, that this won't happen to another family, that no other family should hear, we know who did this, we have the evidence, but there's no legal mechanism to charge this person. And so this person walks free. It's just not acceptable. So what we are looking at Renee's Law to do is, one, if it is a person under the age of 15, because the age has now gone up. In 1977, it was 14. In 2015, it is now 15 years of age. That a person can, if they commit a homicide or a violent crime, they cannot be tried in adult court, transferred to adult court. It would have to stay within the juvenile system. What we are saying, there are certain crimes that are horrific. This was not a crime that child fell, was being chased, even pushed, and she fell down and she hit her head and she died as a result of that. That's not what this case is. This case was deliberate and violent and intentional. Those are the cases we're looking at. So what we are asking is that Renee's Law will look at each case individually if the person is under the age of 15, not just blanket immunity, that they could not be held accountable because their brain is not fully developed yet at the age of 15 or 14. We're asking a judge to look at that. Is this person, is this juvenile capable of killing, intentionally killing another person? So that's what we're asking. Secondly, what we are asking is for manslaughter in the first degree, that there be no statute of limitations. There is no statute of limitations on murder in Connecticut if you are over a certain age. If you are over 15, there is no statute of limitations. We are asking that there be no statute of limitations on manslaughter in the first degree. Because the way that forensics are now and DNA, I'm sure many of you have seen and read about cases, they're all over the news now, about DNA being found years later and being able to solve a case. Not in Renee's case, because the suspect was under a certain age. So we are asking to change that. What we're hoping that will do is help any other family having gone through this. We'd like to attach the name Renee's Law to this so that she could be remembered for this and helping another child, that her name won't be forgotten. I know lots of people have done things so that her name is still out there, but we want that to continue for her. So we do have a dedicated website, which is www.justice4ReneeFreer.com. We have a dedicated email. We have our website, which is, our Facebook page, which is Justice for FOR Renee Freer. Same with an Instagram page. On change.org, we have a petition out right now asking for people to sign that petition about supporting Renee's Law. We have close to 1,000 signatures already on this. We will continue to work with legislators, lawmakers in Connecticut, in hopes to make this change to Connecticut law and Connecticut statutes. So I truly appreciate you listening. I hope that answers some questions. We will be calling on you for some help as we move forward in the summer. We are going to need help in terms of writing letters and keeping this at the forefront of our Connecticut lawmakers' minds, having them understand the importance of this and what it means to the people of Connecticut and beyond. If you have any questions, if you have any ideas, any thoughts, please don't hesitate to contact any of us. You can contact us through Messenger. You can contact us through email on our website. And we really would appreciate any of that. Renee's death, even though it's all these years later, should not be in vain. It should not go down in vain. And we will continue to fight for her and for justice for her. So thank you all for listening. I really appreciate it. Have a good evening.